Hello, everyone. It's been a while. So, today we're going to be doing the Next.js tutorial course, and I'm going to show you how that works and what we're going to be doing. Give me 1 minute. And if you can hear me, just say hi in the chat. How's the weather in your area? In my area, it's pretty cold. Everywhere is full of snow. Let's see, where is that? Trying to find. I want to show you the course that we're going to be using. Let's see. Bit of technical difficulties over here. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and tell you what we're going to be doing. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. Today we're going to be doing the Next.js course. This is on the Next.js website. So we're going to be learning how to build a dashboard app. And so this is the goal. This is the goal of what we're going to be building. So I set up my environment already on Windsurf, and we're going to get started. This is how the environment looks without anything. This is how the environment looks without anything at all. So we're going to get started. And yes, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed this stream. So let's I'm going to share this screen with you. 1 minute, please, so I can fix my configuration issues. Okay, it's still persisting. Let's see. So we're going to get started with this. So the first thing that we're going to do is I want you to go over to the Next.js docs and set up your environment so that we can start. I already went through some parts of that already, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Share screen. Okay, so I hope you can see. So right now, what I've done so far is first of all, I installed pnpm. So what that does is that it actually helps with making sure that you don't have so many version errors. So if you go to the Next.js docs, you see it over there. Some things that we're going to be doing right now is, oh, can you see my screen? Let me stop sharing. I think share my screen, share. Okay. So I started by downloading it with pnpm. So let's with pnpm. So that's what I'm using right now. I also set up the environment. I'm going to be putting the commands in the chat. So this was the first thing I did. I created a React Next app with this project file, and I'll post that in the comment section. So that you can also follow along too. Now, let's look at some specific things that we need to do. I've already set up the environment, so I'm going to be going straight into the CSS styling. So if you currently look, this is 1 minute. The page is looking. it's looking off. But this is what we're trying to build, right? We're trying to build this financial dashboard, and this is what we currently have. This is what we currently have. As you can see, this does not look very pleasing to the eyes. And if you can hear me, you can just give me a thumbs up in the chat. That'd be very helpful. So as you can see, this does not look very pleasing. It does not look like what we are trying to achieve. So right now we're going to be going through the styling. So the first thing I'm going to do, and we're following the documentation on here, is we're going to be going into the layout file. We're going to be going into the layout file, over here. And what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be importing our CSS file. So I don't know how far you've gone in your software engineering journey, but most times we have different files. Not most times, when you're coding, just because we follow the principle of reusability and not repeating ourselves several times, when we want to build a particular feature, or let's say want to add styles for a page, we usually create a styling guide, like a design system, which we use throughout the whole page. And so right now I'm going to be importing that file so that we can use it everywhere. So my code editor is completing it for me. So we're going to be importing this global CSS file. And so we're going to save this. Now, in this global CSS file that I just imported, it's within this page, right? This is it. So now I just saved that. Okay. That file is currently not found. Let's see. Live coding, everyone. Okay. Sorry, it was in the UI folder. So that was why it was not found. As you can see, the UI has changed, right? The UI has changed, and we're going to go into other parts of this to make this page look better. So in your mind, you may be like, I didn't add any CSS rules, but um we already imputed the Tailwind directives. So we have the base, the components, the utilities. And what is Tailwind? Tailwind is a CSS framework that we can use to speed up styling. One example I have using Tailwind was when I was working for this company, and it was kind of difficult to change my styling that worked in desktop view to mobile view easily without like distorting anything. And one thing that really helped me was using Tailwind, because it helped with responsiveness, quick responsiveness. So we're just going to continue using Tailwind. So I'm going to go into the page.tsx file. And as you can see, the code is already there. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to study some of this code, and we'll see that we have some tailwind here actually. We're using flexbox, we're using different grid stylings and things like that, and text styles, but we're going to keep getting better. Let's see, let me show you what I'm looking at so that we can follow up together. Hold on 1 minute, please. Okay, so this is what we're looking at, and we have our tailwind class. So this is chapter 2 on chapter 2, which is the CSS. So we're going to do a quick quiz, and I'm also taking the quiz too. So we have a class name over here. We have a border, a large border on the left. We have a border on the right. We have a border at the bottom, and we have another border. We have a transparent border, and we have a black border. So what shape would we see? What shape would we see? What shape would we see? Not 100% sure, but I do know it's going to be black because of this border be black. So let's continue, shall we? So we're going to talk about CSS models. Models help us to scope a CSS component by automatically creating unique class names, okay? So that we don't have to worry about style collision. So I'm assuming that style collisions means when you style let's say a class or a class or maybe like an ID, you style it several times, and so it's like clashing with each other. But we can also look into what style collisions are, just for more context. This is a study session with me, by the way. I hope you're having fun. What are style collisions? So yes, what I said. Basically, when different styles target the same elements. So over here we have a class called shape, and so we're going to be putting this in our home module.css to add styling to it. So I'm just gonna copy this, and then I'm going to go into my home models file. Let me just be sure. Okay, so we're going to go into the UI, and then we're going to go into the home modules. So to the app UI, I'm already in the UI. Then we're going to go into home. Let's see. Okay, I'm meant to create the file actually. So you say home dot module dot css. So this is a css file, and I'm gonna paste this over here. And so inside my page.csx file, I'm going to be importing this page. So remember what I told you, we want visibility. We don't want to have to keep repeating code over and over and over again. So I'm going to import my styles from, it already actually did it for me. The Windsurf AI autocomplete did it for me. But right now, okay. So now inside this div, page. So now I'm going to be adding a shape over here. So let's see. So I'm just using the documentation. Right now I have the class name over here, styles and shape. And then let's preview it in the browser. Let's see what's going on. So we can see the triangle, the black triangle over there. So that's how it works. So now if I have several pages here, right, which I do, I have a customers table, a dashboard table, an invoice table, I can reuse this same style in all those places just by importing it. So that's how the reusability of the styling works. So let's answer the questions that we have in this course. It's time to take the quiz. What is one benefit of using CSS modules? So increase the global scope of CSS classes, making them easier to manage across several different files. Provide a way to make CSS classes locally scoped to components by default, reducing the risk of styling conflicts, and automatically compress and minify CSS files for faster page loading. What do you think the answer is? My lovely audience, that may just be only me. So what do you think the answer is? I would say um we did talk about styling conflict. So let's look at this. Yes. Styling conflict. So now I'm going to be using the Clarks library to toggle class names. So we may need to conditionally style our elements in some cases, right? So let's look at it. If we're working on an invoice now, right? An invoice can have various statuses, right? Let's say that I'm trying to maybe get a makeup artist or get a hairdresser that I want to help me with my things, right? She may send me a bill. Until I've paid for it, it's going to be pending. And when I've paid, that status will be changed to paid. So let's say that I want to create an invoice status component, and I want it to be able to display green when it's paid and display gray when it's pending. Okay, display gray when it's pending. So let's work on this now. Let's work on this, work on this. Are you excited? I'm excited. Such a pleasure to always learn something new. Okay, let's see. So over here, we're going to go into our. Actually, hold on, please. Right. We're going to go into our status.tsx file, and that is under invoices. So our status, the TypeScript file. So there's a TypeScript file. If you guys ever see anything like TSX, there's JSX and there's TSX, which is basically TypeScript. TypeScript. So let's see. So by using this, what does Clerks do? So Clerks is a library that helps us toggle class names easily, right? But let's look at how to use it basically. So let's say that we have a pending status, right? It has not been paid. No money has come in yet. Let's say that we have a pending status. What we can do here is we can set that to gray, which is what we did in this code section. We set it to gray, and the text is also gray, but a heavier font of gray. Then for the paid, we can set the background to green. So that's why we have BG green 500 and the text to white, which is paid. So let's look at the quiz that we're going to be taking. So search for clicks in your code editor. What components use it to conditionally apply class names? Okay, let's look at it together, shall we? This is a very beginner friendly course. Kudos to you, Next.js, for being so intentional. So we can see that the buttons use clerks. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. We see that invoices use it. We see that the breadcrumbs use it. We also see that pagination uses it too. So even statuses. So it's used in several places. So let's just say status and pagination because that's where we see it right now. So there are other ways to style. So there's also SCSS files, using SCSS files. I think it's called SAS. I've used it before. It's similar to CSS, but it's more like grouped. It's like working with variables. In a way. But okay, so we have styled components in CSS, style JX, emotion, different things. But today we're not going to be looking at that. Now let's talk about optimizing fonts and images. Right. So previously we learned how to style a Next.js application. We imported our global CSS, which contained our tailwind files, right? And it helped us to make the page look more organized. So you saw how it was before, and we added this triangle over there. So now we're going to be talking about how to add custom fonts, how to add images, and how fonts and images are optimized using Next.js. So why do we optimize fonts, right? Fonts can affect performance. So I remember this time where I was building a feature at work where I needed to load fonts into the file. And so each time the fonts were loading, it would take like maybe 5 seconds for the page to load. And that was incredibly slow for users. But with a framework like Next, we can make this faster using the um we can make this faster using Next.js, right? So let's look at what is written here. So the cumulative layout shift is a metric used by Google to evaluate the performance on user experience of a website. So with fonts, layout shifts happen when the browser initially renders in a fallback or system font, and then it swaps out for a custom font. So let's say that initially it loads using a different font, then it then changes the font later on. But Next.js optimizes fonts when we use the next font model. So this is a good model to use for optimizing your fonts. You can download your font files, um you can download your font files at build time and host them another static asset, which is really, really, really helpful so that your page doesn't have to load like 5 seconds long, which is quite too slow. So let's look at it. So how does Next.js optimize fonts? It preloads the fonts at runtime. Let's see. Oh, I'm not wrong. Let's see. Does it disable all custom fonts? Let's look at it together. Okay, I think it's D. Yeah, sorry. So now let's look at adding a primary font. So let's say that we're trying to use Inter for our fonts um for this invoice feature that we're building, that we're styling, and improving using Next.js. Let's say I want to use Inter. So we're just going to go into our fonts.cs file. So let's go back over here. And that's under the UI. Let's close all this first of all. Actually, we're the ones that are going to create that. So let's have a new file. Let's call the file fonts.ts. And so what we're going to be doing, we're going to be importing a font. So we're going to be importing the Inter font. I like Inter font actually. I think it's very good for like documents and things like that. Um, from next font Google, and then we're going to be exporting it. It's Latin subset. Okay. Then we're going to add the fonts to the body element. So inside our layout file. So the layout file is reusable. Like if you want to have it reusable in every part of your app, you can put this particular you can import this particular component here so that you can use it everywhere. So we're just going to import the incher from UI fonts, and then within this body tag, we're going to add a class name, and then we're going to be passing it in. So inter, actually, 1 minute. Sometimes autocomplete is nice, sometimes it gets annoying. um, so we're just going to be doing like this. So we're going to import our inter fonts class name. And we're going to be using the tailwind anti-aliased. So let's put that in there too. So now when we add this font to the element, it will apply throughout our application, like I said before. And we're also adding anti-aliased, which smooths out the fonts, right? It just adds a nice, touch. Let's sparkle. So now let's go back to our browser. Let's go back to our browser over here. Oh, font inter does not exist in the target module. I think I imported the wrong files. But how come it's not erroring out for me? Wait, it works over here. Maybe it's because it wasn't saved. See, layout.tsx. Let's do it like this. Let's say at /app. Okay. Notice how the font changed. Looks pretty, doesn't it? Okay. Let's inspect the page. So when we inspect the page over here and we select the body, notice that the font is now inter. Okay. So we're going to be adding a secondary font, and this is a project. Wow. So let's look at it together. We're going to be adding another secondary font, and so inside our font.ts file, we're going to create a font called Luistana. Then let's look at it together. No, it's not here. So we're going to okay. So I think we can just do this. Luistana. Oh gosh. Okay, the value is not red, but it's declared. It's not that it doesn't exist, so that's good. So now I'm going to have add the secondary fonts. Hmm. Okay, it's actually not meant to be here. It's meant to be in our, or following the documentation, by the way. So it's meant to be in our page.tsx file. So let's put that in here. But it's going to be Luis Dana. And then inside my paragraph tag, we're going to pass this on here. So I do this one again. Class name. So it's gonna be dot class name. And I still want us to use anti-alias. Let's see if we can use that. Um, Anti-aliased. So what's the issue now? But I did declare its value. Oh, did something cancel out? Let's see if I misspelled it. Okay, so something is off. Let's look at the solution. Okay, so we're meant to go into the fonts file. Oh yeah, I missed this step actually. So we need to import Luciana here too. Luciana. And then we need to export it. Similar to Inter. Okay, so I have 400 and 700 there. Subset is Latin. So then even in here, you then need to import it. Yay, error fixed. Let's check it out. Okay. So inside a paragraph tag, it's working now. I don't want to have, I think I want to remove this styles.shape. I don't see the point of having that triangle there anymore. Now we're going to go into the logo file. I'm going to make sure that the logo also uses the Lustana font. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to uncomment this out. Oh, what's wrong? Can't find it. I think it was removed by mistake. Import it like this. Where's the logo path? So the reason why this is failing is because you need to find a path for the logo and then have the right path there. Let's see. It was here before, but I deleted it by mistake, I think, when I was making changes. Let's see. From app UI dashboard. So it's in the UI, it's in the dashboard. Actually, it's not there. Where's the logo? Another thing I can do, I can just search globally. So Control P. Okay, so it's in the Next.js dashboard. app UI, app UI. Okay. What's the issue? Let's see what's wrong. So many things are breaking in this test. Wow. Could it just be that my windsurf is not updating on time? Actually, maybe the issue. Yeah. Is this gonna work or is that curly line gonna break things? Oh, worked! Hey. Okay. So let's continue. I wonder if anybody has joined so far. Let's continue over here. So now we're going to be talking about why we optimize images in Next.js. Why do we optimize images in Next.js? So Next.js can serve static assets like images, right? Meaning they don't change. And they can serve that at the public folder. So files within public can be referenced for application. And if it's regular HTML, we can add it using this syntax, this self-closing image tag. So, but this means that we need to make sure that our image is responsive, which is very important, and we need to specify the different image sizes for different devices. Um, for example, if someone is viewing the image on a phone, should it look different from how they view it on a desktop? Right. So image optimization is a very big deal because how your images look on your websites can determine whether it's an ugly, outdated website that is not functional or a good website, right? So we can do this using the image component, right? Just an image component is an extension of the HTML image tag. But what it does has is automatic image optimization. So it can prevent your layout from shifting when images are loading. It can resize the image for you to avoid like using the same image sizes for several files, and it can help with lazy loading, which can increase optimization too, and serving the images in these formats. Now let's add a desktop hero message for ACME. Let's do that right now. Okay. So right now, I'm gonna go back to Windsurf and we are going to inside our page.tsx file. I'm gonna close this out. So our page.tsx file, we are going to add an image. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm going to import image from next image, and then we are going to import that image. Sure. Okay. So I'm going to add the image here. So image is a self-closing tag. So it's gonna be like this, but we then need to add a source. And so we're going to be using a desktop image. And we need to add an alt text. So it's going to be a screenshot of a dashboard. It's going to be 1000, height is 760. Now, where is this located in? So it needs to be in the public file. Let's look at it together. So it's in a public folder, right? Any image you put inside this public folder can be accessed anywhere. So that's why it's super helpful. So let's continue. Let's look at how it looks now. Notice that the image is appearing. So let's practice adding the mobile hero image. So when this is a mobile screen, let's say we change it. Right now, there's no image showing, so the image is conditionally rendering to users. So how can we update the size to be 560 instead of 620 for users? So this is what we're going to do. This time, we're going to have this exact same code, but this time we're just going to update the size. So we're going to update this to 560 and we're going to update the height to 620. Okay. But we're not going to be using the desktop, we're going to be using the mobile. Well, let's check it out. So, but what's the issue here? Both of them are showing. It's meant to conditionally render. So, still not showing. That's strange. Oh, we're going to go to that section soon in another part, how we can do that specifically. And let's see. Let's continue following the documentation. I don't want to be too fast, neither do I want to be too slow. So, true or false? Image without dimensions and web fonts are common causes of layout shifts. True. Okay. So now we have to study a lot, but we can. It's recommended, but we don't have to do it. So, let's talk about creating layouts and pages in Next.js. I actually want to test something real quick. Okay. So let's talk about creating layouts. Okay, so far your application has a home page. Yes, we do. Let's learn how we can create more pages, right? More routes and more pages. So we're going to create the dashboard routes using Next.js file system routing. We're going to understand the role of folders and files when creating routes. We're going to create a nested layout that can be shared between multiple dashboard pages. So let's talk about nested routing. So Next.js uses a file system routing. So when I say file system routing, it means that like the files determine how we're going to be routing, how we're going to be moving throughout the page. So they determine the navigation links and things like that. So each folder represents a route segment, right? So we have acm.com/dashboard. This is within the dashboard folder, and this means that invoices are within dashboard. Okay, so now we can create separate UIs for each route using the layout.tsx file and the page.tsx file. So page.tsx is a special Next.js file and it exports a React component. So we need that page.tsx to make sure that the route is accessible to our users. So in this application, we already have this file, right? This page.tsx file over here. Now, what are we going to do? So this is the home page associated with the routes. So now if we want to create a nested route, we have to nest the folders inside each other. So for example, we have dashboard over here. We have this dashboard folder over here. Okay. Is that dashboard? Oh, but that's within the UI. So that's just the UI component. So let's see what we need to do. So to create one, we can nest folders. For example, we nest this in. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create a new folder. We're going to create a new folder. And so we're going to create that folder under our app directory. So new folder, we're going to call it dashboard because now this is going to be used for routing. And then what the dashboard is going to contain is going to contain its own page.tsx file. So, and then we're going to export a function. We're going to create a function. So let's say that this function is called function. It's going to be called our page. And let's just say, let's just return Let's return a div that says, which has the div can have a paragraph that just says dashboard. Now, if I want this to be accessible to other parts of the app, I have to export it. So I have to do export default. Okay. Now, if we go over to this page, right, notice that we're still in the login screen. I've not gone too far. But if I go /dashboard, notice that we see the other page I made, right? The dashboard page. So let's keep going. Right? In a real life scenario, that's progress, but that's not the goal, right? The goal is to ensure that the full platform is working so users can access it. So now let's see. So we created a new route, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create more routes. We're going to create a route for customers. We're going to create a route for invoices. So it's going to be very similar to what we did before. So I'm just going to create a new folder, and this folder is going to be for yeah. So I'm going to use small letters. This folder is going to be for customers. And then inside this folder, we have our own page.tsx. And then it's also going to be like a function, default, function, page. And then it's going to return a div that just says customers. And we're going to do the same thing for invoices. I'm going to create a TypeScript file for this, and then we're going to export. Surprised it hasn't started. Okay, great. Okay, so now if we do /dashboard, I'm going to get into dashboard /customer. So these are separate pages. Is it customer or customers? So I think it's customers. These are separate pages, but with all separate routes. So now we are over here in the dashboards. The solution matches what we did. Okay. Now we're going to be creating layouts for our dashboard. Let's see how many. So after chapter 4, we'll go for like a 10-minute break. Then we'll come back. Okay. So let's see. So creating the dashboard layouts. So dashboards have some sort of navigation that is shared across multiple pages. Like if you're looking at your Robinhood, for example, notice how you can tap on different menu bars and then it takes you to different pages. So we need to have a layout for that. And so in Next.js, we can actually use a special layout TypeScript file to create our UI. And it is shared between multiple pages. So let's do that. Let's create a route. Sorry, one minute. Let's create a layout. So I was trying to see our viewers if we're still following. So let's go to our dashboard page and we're going to have a new file called layouts.tsx. And so we're going to be having a side nav bar. So we're going to import side nav from our components, our pre-existing components, and then we're going to I actually want to type this out so I can remember it. So we're going to export default function layout. And so that's going to have its own children. And then we also need to, let's type. Okay, so React, it's a React node. And what it's going to return is going to return the side nav bar in one div, and then in another div, we need, I'm going to put this in one div. And then I'm going to have another div too. And that other div is going to be for the children. It's like the content of the page. But I also still want to add CSS. So we're going to be using Tailwind. So let's just put this on here. And so we're going to be using Flexbox. We're going to use the height of the screen. And then it's going to be a column. Then want rows too for each of the individual menus. So flex row. Then I want to make sure that the overflow doesn't show. So for the sidebar, decide the styling for that. Remember, it has to be within the div. So who knows the answer to this question? What framework is Next.js built on top of? So if you said React, you're correct. Flex none. And then we're going to have a width of 64. So let's change it like this right here. So we're gonna grow. Okay. Now I'm going to check it out. So this is for those invoices. I think we're working in dashboard. But this code is gonna break. So let's see. There's some things that are going on in the code. Oh, it didn't break. Yay. I thought it was gonna break. So let's break this down. So let's look at the documentation together. So what we're doing is we're importing side nav, which is the component, and I can show you where side nav is declared. This is side nav over here. It has the logo, it has the navigation links, it has the power icon to reflect the power. Then inside our dashboard, we have home, voices. I need to attach the right links to it. So let's see. Let's continue reading the documentation. So we have a sidebar. So any components we import will be part of the layout. We have the layout components. And so the layout receives a children prop. The child can either be a page or another layout. Okay. And if you remember what props are immutable and we pass them down into child components. So yes. If in our case, the pages inside the dashboard will automatically be nested. Okay. So but notice something that like when I click on customers, it's not working because customers and invoices, those are within the dashboard. So I may have to move them within the dashboard for it to work. So let's go there. Yes. So what's breaking now? Of the routes. Yeah, I don't know why that's not working. Let's see if this affects anything. Okay, customers. Okay, notice that it's changing now because we have the routing correctly. So let's continue looking into it. So in chapter 2, we imported the inter font over here, and we did that inside our layout.csx file for the app wide. So this is called a root layout. So it's required in every Next.js application, and any UI that we add to this root layout will be shared across all pages in the application, and we can modify it. Right? We can use the root layout to modify our HTML, body tags, etc. We will add metadata if we want, which is good for search engine optimization. So, sorry about that. Nobody's watching. Okay. Search engine optimization, other etc. So since the new layout I've just created is this, it's unique to our dashboard pages, so we don't need to add any more UI. So what's the purpose of the layout file? So it's a global error handler, not really, to fetch data, manage states, to share UI across, come multiple files, acts as an entry point. I'll say it's to share UI. Okay, awesome. So we have part 5, and so for that, it's going to be in another live that we do. So thank you so much, everyone.